Today is day 7 of the Houston Livestock Show Rodeo. Ton of fun out there, of course. We're not even halfway through.
But with such a big event, it is so important to always be aware of your surroundings so that you can keep you and your family safe. With us now is Rania Mankarious, CEO of Crime Stoppers Houston, with more on rodeo safety.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Beautiful studio.
Oh, yes. It's your first time
I'm
here.
not leaving. So I'll just have this chair.
Yeah. You can have your own segment.
Yeah.
We're going to work on that, actually.
I'm not leaving.
Okay.
The whole Crime Stoppers team is coming. Don't you worry.
It's done.
You're welcome.
Oh, Rania. Okay, so we want to talk about safety. We want everyone to have a good time, but we want them to do it safely. So with all the fun, let's keep the safety in mind, right?
Yeah, and they're not like mutually exclusive, right? So people say, well, we don't want to ruin it. I'm like, no, it's so fun. It's so exciting. 2.4 million people went to the rodeo last year and probably more this year. It is so fun and it is the place to be. But we want people to not get lost in the fun and to forget about safety. So we talk about like big picture things, you know, like you're going to be drinking there. That's okay, but just don't leave your drinks unattended. Keep mindful watch over your friends who might be drinking. Maybe don't get into a rideshare alone, leaving a friend intoxicated while drinking. All these little things that people do at the rodeo, we just want you to do it safely.
Well, and a lot of these things do come back to drinking many times where bad decisions get made.
Yes.
And here we are in a situation where it is a giant party and it's 3 weeks of every single night. And for some people, it's multiple nights throughout those 3 weeks. And then for some, it's just that, oh, we go once every year.
Yes.
And when you least expect it,
something
because we've dropped our guard. How quickly does this stuff happen?
It happens quickly, and there's different areas to think about. So last year at the rodeo, there were about 28,000 incidents of cars being broken into or tampered with. So it's about being safe on the property, but it's also keeping your car safe if you park. It's making sure you get into the correct ride share. You know, a lot of parents think this is Texas culture. It's so fun. We'll send our kids to the rodeo. Great, but how are they getting there and back? Are they old enough to handle a space like this on their own? What if the young kids get separated from parents? So now we elevate the conversation. We're telling parents, and I don't know what you guys think of this, but consider putting an air tag in a child's shoe. Some way to keep in touch with them. Take a picture of them before you leave for the day. So if you do get separated, you know exactly what they look like and you can show it to somebody on the property. Different things to think about, but again, never saying don't go or it's not safe to go. No, you go, you have the best time ever, but we want you to be thinking about safety the whole time.
For parents that are allowing their older children to go, the teenagers, and dropping them off and saying, okay, here's, you know, money, here's the phone, like, let's stay in contact, this is what you're allowed to do. What do you want those parents to know? Well,
I'll tell you, just the way you phrase the question means that they're doing something right. This is a conversation. You start with the conversation. You're going with your friends. This is what you're allowed to do. This is have your phone. Make sure it's charged. I mean, it's the one time I'll beg my children, your phone needs to be with you and charged, right?
Yes.
Fully charged. Have a plan for the day and then know what to do, similar to even when kids go trick-or-treating. What is your plan when a group of strangers walks up to you and sort of starts to tag along? What is the plan if somebody, you know, decides to go off with somebody else that's unknown to your group or maybe is known but not the people you came with? How are you going and coming? How late are you staying? What are you eating? What are you drinking? All of those things, even going to the restroom. It's little things that are little points of the day, but have a potential for something to happen, and we want you to be mindful of it. Sometimes just the conversation covers every issue, right?
Yes.
It gives your kids they think through it. They say, well, that's a good point. I have a plan, and most likely nothing will happen.
And I just want to say, I do tell my daughter, who is just turned 12, by the way. Time goes by so fast, but just turned 12, that also to trust your gut, right? I mean, that feeling inside of you, if something doesn't feel right, you're uncomfortable, you're not sure, trust it.
And it's so important because a lot of us, especially women, we grow into young women that don't want to be rude. And we don't want to be offensive, and we don't want to assume that somebody meant harm, but we've actually got to be saying, trust your gut and go with it. And you can draw a line without actually being rude. You can say, you know, I'm not interested in that right now, thank you, and just keep walking.
Teach them to say no. When you don't want it, you just say no thank you.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong with that.
From the flip side, the perspective of these people that are trying to take advantage of others during this time, what is it about this event that continues. I mean, they do a great job with security and things, but still, I mean, it's just kind of comes with the territory. But what is it about these kinds of events that's so like appetizing for criminals?
Well, it's a place where a lot of people go. You're going to have fun. You're usually going to spend money. They know that kids and parents go and separate, or there's a lot of friends involved. There's drinking involved. We know that there's tourists that come in for things like that, and they'll be taking public transportation. They might get off the metro and clearly appear to be lost. There's a lot of different scenarios under which criminal activity will thrive. And it's almost easy to get away with it and get lost in the crowd. And then certainly we have to look at the aftermath. You know, we have to have, law enforcement and all those tools in place to follow up. And we do, for the most part. Security is amazing at the rodeo. But that's the nature of these big events, right? Wherever you go.
It could be Super Bowl, it could be
Absolutely.
NCAA, anything that's a huge party.
Yes.
And this one just happens the last 3 weeks.
I know, and it is so fun. But we want to make these events the worst possible place for criminals to go and try to thrive. We want to tell people, yes, you're going to park your car. There's 3 lots to park your car. Parking's about $25. Don't leave valuables in the car. Right. Don't leave a weapon in the car. Weapons are not allowed inside the premises. Do not leave your weapon in the car, because we already know that so many of those get stolen and then they wind up back on the streets in Houston.
Used in some other crime somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rania, I do want to ask you about those who take rideshare options. It can get a little crazy when everybody's kind of leaving at the same time and everybody's trying to find their Uber. And
they want to leave first.
And they want to leave first. And then maybe other cars come and they're like, hey, I will take you to where you want to be, like a makeshift taxi. I've seen these in person where they don't have an Uber. They're not a Lyft, but there are people maybe trying to, a side hustle. A
marked car, right?
Yeah, and they're like, hey, do you need a ride?
Sedan,
Let's go. And people want to get out of that situation fast. So what do you say about these, maybe taxis coming in and trying to give people rides?
Yeah, and they're not formal taxis, to your point. And so Uber or rideshare is a great way to get into the venue. It makes everything so much easier, but there is built-in frustration when you're leaving because so many people are using it. It's a designated lot. I believe it's the yellow lot, and you're going to wait. You're going to wait a long time. And you'll see, and our marketing director was just saying she was there and the Uber driver kept canceling because they can't even get into the premises, right? So other people come up and say, well, I'll drive you home, $50, $100, $200, I'll drive you home. Here's the thing, we don't want to assume that everybody's out to get you, right? That everybody has a bad intention. But we also want you to realize that the second you get in that car, and it starts driving away, you're at the mercy of the driver, right? So be mindful of whether or not you really want to make that choice. If it's an independent person, not backed by any type of reputable company, it's you and the driver. If you're intoxicated, definitely don't do it. Like, it's just not even an option. If you're going to go out on a limb and say, I'm stuck and I need to get home somehow, call somebody, share your location, try to buddy up with somebody. Don't put yourself in a position where you're alone. And honestly, it can be unsafe for the driver too. We know how many cases of drivers themselves getting attacked. So either way, it can create a risk.
You're just two strangers getting in a car. There's no contract. Nothing's been said. I mean, it's wild.
I know.
The one thing that we've been talking about this morning, what do we do in a situation where we think we're witnessing something like, okay, maybe someone who is intoxicated, person's getting pulled into a vehicle. How do we act in that moment? I mean, is this like, are we drunk 911? Am I grabbing the nearest cop? Am I yelling myself? I don't want to assume anything. And a lot of times we don't want to get involved in other people's business.
I know, isn't that true? So obviously, if it's a criminal act, a true criminal act, you always call 911. Absolutely. If it's I'm concerned about my neighbor, you might want to say, hey, before you get in that car, are you okay? Do you know the driver? Is somebody sharing the location with you? You know where you're going? You know the direction? I'm always amazed at these young, it blows my mind. These young, especially young college kids that will say, well, I got into the Uber. So did you know where you're going? Or whatever third party rideshare. Yeah. Did you know? No, actually I had no idea where we were supposed to be going. I just knew I was going downtown somewhere. It's like you're not even able to know if you're headed in the right direction. So we recommend, of course, being a good Samaritan, a good partner, intervening, asking some questions. But if it's a true crime, definitely everybody should get involved and call 911.
In that case, we do know the difference. We don't always, and that's kind of that gray area is tough.
It is hard.
Rania, thank you so much for all of this information, help making Rodeo Houston safe for everyone.
Thank you.